right, let's go ahead and get started today. So I want to welcome everybody for being on this webinar today to discuss the 2026 Summer Youth Internship Program. This presentation is going to be recorded and will be distributed to everyone that's registered for this webinar after we've concluded. We'll have a link for you to that I can send out to everyone that's registered that you can then reference back. And I'll also provide a slide disc with that. So if you have any questions as we navigate through this presentation, please be sure to put those in the chat and we will try to answer those as we go. And then also we should have time at the end to answer any questions you may have at that time as well. My name is Melanie Johnson, and I'm going to be the program manager for the Summer Youth Internship. So today's agenda, we're going to be discussing an overview of the grant. We're going to be hearing about how you can partner with the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act, specifically the Title I Youth Program. We're going to be discussing program requirements for successful applicants, and then how to apply for the actual grant opportunity. So again, my name is Melanie Johnson. I'm a grant program coordinator. I assist with questions during the application process, organize the review of the application, and then I also manage awardees post-award. So once you have been awarded, you will be working with me to be working through your program and managing the compliance and follow-up of that. And then also today we're going to hear from Lisa Funk. She's a workforce program coordinator with the Title I Youth Program, and she's going to be serving as the interim liaison between the Summer Youth Internship and then the Title I Youth Program. And then also we have a couple more IWD workers here that I'd like to mention. I have Patrick Rice, who's the bureau chief for the grants team. He's online. He's going to be helping me field questions as we go through here. And then also, I believe Loretta McCollum is on here. She assists me with managing the Summer Youth Program as well. So a couple of important deadlines or dates we want to keep in mind is that applications are already open in IowaWORKS.gov. Those opened up last Wednesday, and they are going to be open until Monday, February 16th at 2 p.m. That is a hard and fast date and time. So if you're in the application on Monday and you're working away at like 1:45-ish and then it becomes 2:01 and you try to submit your application, the system's not going to allow you to do that. So I would strongly encourage you to get in and get your application started and submitted well before that Monday, February 16th deadline. And then also here I have put a link to the Summer Youth Internship webpage. You can also find this by, doing a Google search for Iowa Summer Youth Internships. This webpage has a lot of the information that we will cover today in this presentation. It will have the notice of funding opportunity, which is a several page document that lists out very specific items that we'll be looking for in your application and what your application should include. Basically, it's just an overview of a lot of the things we'll be discussing today. Also in there is other documents that we will mention here in the next few slides is the high demand jobs occupation list as well. So that link, there's a lot of helpful information at that link. So just to give an overview of the grant, the purpose of the Summer Youth Internship Program is to encourage businesses and organizations to create summer internships that help youth explore high-demand careers, gain real-world work experience, and then build workplace and life skills. These are state-appropriated funds, so the state has appropriated $250,000 for FY26 for the program. Another thing to highlight for the program is that this is a reimbursement grant only, so there won't be any advance payments. There won't be an upfront payment for award funds if you were to be awarded. So just know that this works on a reimbursement basis. Another item I wanted to mention is that we previously talked about a little bit, that in the high demand jobs that where your internships should be geared toward, This list is found on our website. Again, if you scroll halfway down that webpage, there will be a section that says high demand occupations. So you just click that plus sign and that gives a drop down. And then on the right side of my screen here is the list that link will send you to. Please pay attention to this list. It has changed from last year. If you were an applicant or an awardee from last year, it has been updated. So kind of want to have you reference this to dial back and connect to your internship opportunities and occupations. So it's a 2-page document. The first page just lists the occupations by hourly wage. The second page of that document gives you the annual salary for that. So who should your target participant audience be? So you can be looking for youth that are between the ages of 14 and 24. In-school youth and out-of-school youth are eligible. Priority populations that we would be looking at would be, let's say, youth at risk of not graduating, or that are from low-income households, or that are from communities underrepresented, and then also youth facing barriers to employment. And then youth that are already enrolled in the Title I program would be good participants for you to recruit and enroll. So who is eligible to apply is any nonprofit organization, educational institutions, private or public employers, community organizations, or any other entities that are in good standing with the state of Iowa. Since these are state funds, applicants must be located in and be conducting their internship program in the state of Iowa. So a little bit about award and funding. Again, there's $250,000 available for this year's funding source. IWD anticipates awarding grants to multiple applicants varying in amount, but the maximum award amount for any award is going to be $60,000. We will be seeking to maximize grant awards to those programs which demonstrate the most significant programming and project responses, and for those whose projects indicate the possibility of most significant community impacts. Priority funding will be given to applicants enrolling summer youth internship participants with their local Title I youth program. Again, just want to reiterate that this is a reimbursement only, so we will reimburse any eligible grant funds on a monthly basis after the required reporting of monthly project reports. A little bit different this year is reimbursement of participant wages will be dispersed after submission and approval of the final report. So if you were awardee before, we did this monthly. So this year that's going to be eligible for reimbursement at the end or after your program has ended. There's no advance payments, and then there's no match or cost sharing with this program. Did I skip one? Nope. Okay, so then now I'm going to kind of switch it over to Lisa and have her discuss the Title I Youth Program and partnering with those.
Thanks, Melanie. As Melanie said, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Lisa Funk. I'll be walking you through the next few slides that are focused specifically on the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act, other words known as WIOA. Specifically, its Title I Youth Program and the importance of partnering with your local workforce development areas and Title I for your Summer Youth Internship Program. Giving a brief overview of Title I. The Title I program serves young people ages 14 to 24 who face barriers to employment and education. The program is really about preparing youth for long-term success. We focus on building work readiness and occupational skills, helping youth stay connected to school or re-engage in education, and supporting them in exploring their career pathways. Each youth receives individualized service strategies to address their barriers that might otherwise interfere with their career or educational goals. Ultimately, the goal of Title I is successful transitions into employment, post-secondary education, or training. Thank you, Thania. We are encouraging partnerships with Title I. And why are we doing that? Well, let's talk about that for just a little bit. Partnering with Title I will expand your reach to youth who are already identified as needing services. It will add structured career planning, case management, and ongoing support to your internship or program model. These partnerships will help address barriers that often impact attendance, completion, and overall success. In some cases, partnerships will also allow coordination of funding for allowable costs. But most importantly, Title I supports continue beyond the internship, so youth leave with a clear next step. Next slide, Melanie. Yep. Talk a little bit about what a Title I partnership can deliver. Title I partners can assist with outreach and recruitment, and then we determine eligibility and enroll into the Title I program. Once enrolled, youth receive individualized service strategies and goal setting. As I said on the previous slide, there's ongoing support and progress monitoring throughout participation. Participants are also connected to education, training opportunities, and employment after the internship ends. And when appropriate, Title I can coordinate funding for allowable program and supportive service needs, such as some or all of the internship wages. This can offset costs and allow you to host more youth in your internship program. Title I, how we support youth success. We provide a comprehensive set of services that support both education and employment goals. This includes such things as tutoring, alternative education, occupational training, and a wide range of work experiences. Youth can participate in paid and unpaid internships, such as this Summer Youth Internship Program, job shadowing, on-the-job training, and pre-apprenticeships. Our program also focuses on leadership development, mentoring, financial literacy, and post-secondary transition support. Title I program also provides supportive services such as transportation, clothing reimbursement, incentive payments, or emergency assistance to help remove those barriers so youth can participate and be successful. Establishing your Title I partnership. To be considered in partnership with WIOA Title I, applicants must submit a formal partnership agreement. This agreement includes documentation of support from the local Workforce Development Board, and it should also outline how enrollment efforts will coordinate services and maximize those resources. The partnership agreement must be included as part of your application. Those templates have been provided by your local workforce development area contact, and those contacts are listed in the notice of funding opportunity. I want to talk real briefly about roles in a successful partnership. So if we're talking about partnering between the Summer Youth Internship Program and Title I, how we're hoping that will work is that the grant applicant will focus on recruiting youth and placing them into internship opportunities. Applicants will also create intentional connections between your youth and Title I staff and maintain documentation of those efforts. The local workforce development areas will then determine eligibility. They'll complete enrollment for the Title I program and provide ongoing case management and career planning for the youth. Title I may also help lead outreach and ongoing support activities for the internship program. In general, overall, together, successful partnerships will rely on consistent communication, coordination of services and funding when appropriate, and shared responsibility for youth success. This last slide highlights our 6 local workforce development areas across the state and the local workforce development board executive directors who are your local contacts for this project. And as noted previously, those contacts are in the NOFO. These local areas are critical partners in service delivery, enrollment, and ongoing youth support. At this point, we're going to pause for a minute as I invite Eric Kress. He's the Executive Director of Central Iowa. I would like him to share a little bit about what's important when building those strong partnerships. Even though not all local areas are on today's webinar, applicants should view this slide and Eric's conversation as an invitation to begin outreach and relationship building as part of developing a strong application.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me, Lisa, and the trust to put me on this call. Wanted to make sure it's known I'm not like serving on this call in terms of an official capacity for IWD. I do not work for Iowa Workforce Development. I'm not going to be selecting the grant, but I do believe that I can bring a viewpoint that will make this a more positive experience as it goes to working with those workforce board contacts that we have on here. So my job is I'm the director of the Central Iowa Workforce Development Board, as you see my name listed, and you can tell for myself, I serve those 8 counties in Central Iowa. The other contacts you can see corresponding to the map on the screen. The first thing I want everybody to know is that we appreciate your investment in youth. No grant or no grant, we appreciate investment in youth and youth internship and work-based learning regardless. And we hope that all of you would continue to run your programs this summer or run programs summer, regardless of if or not awarded with this grant, or regardless of if you co-enroll with your local Title I program. We need your support for our future workforce. I would also say partnering for work-based learning and internships with Title I is not something that's just a summer thing. It's a year-round thing. And not the only way that you can partner with WIOA Title I Youth or Adult or Dislocated Worker programs. So your workforce board contact may also be able to connect you to other opportunities to partner with your local workforce area and Iowa Works that may be even more suitable for your needs of your business. So it encourage engagement from that broader view. I've been with this program for this may be the 4th summer now. And so I have learned some things that have prove useful as we go about considering participation with WIOA Title I. First of all, I think is taking that long view approach. If you have yet to become familiar with your IowaWORKS office, your Title I program, it's going to be really hard to start from scratch right now and create a strong application and all that prior to the grant deadline. But that work could also be useful as you build towards next year's grant application, if there was one, or activities beyond the summer. As Lisa did a great job of explaining some of the unique characteristics of WIOA Title I Youth, it does serve youth and young adults up to age 24. And actually, the program serves more adults on that age 18 to 24 than it does youth in most cases. I can tell you it's about 90% that in Central Iowa. So that's something to consider. As Lisa also mentioned, some of the characteristics of WIOA Title I are eligibility, an assessment, an individual service strategy, goals and activities, which internship is one of them, employment, and follow-up services. Those that are enrolled in WIOA Title I will likely be within this program for at least 1.5 years to 2 years until they complete their individual post-secondary or employment strategy. The reason I say that is to hurry up and do this just for the sake of being awarded a grant for a summer internship might be a little bit too narrow focused. Okay. Doing that because the youth that you serve are going to be needing long-term case management would be a reason to do that. And so to think about the needs of the individuals that you serve. Another unique about the WIOA Title I is a preference towards out-of-school youth. Federal legislation requires 75% to be out-of-school youth that are enrolled in our program. Iowa has a waiver that allows that to be 50%. But the majority of the youth that are involved in WIOA Title I are disengaged from school. That means they are not enrolled in high school, and not just in the summer. That means they are high school dropouts and likely could be pursuing their high school diploma through an alternative route, like a high set, or they're high school graduates who still have barriers to employment but are not likely to be enrolled in post-secondary education at this time. So what I want you guys to know is this is not a program. WIOA Title I does not traditionally serve what you would consider your college intern, if you're thinking about it from that point of view. And most likely they're not students who are taking a traditional route towards their high school diploma. That's not in all cases, but the majority would meet that. So those are some of the things that I wanted to stress with this. And I don't want to speak about our youth at all in terms of them being deficient in any way that are in our Title I program. They are often highly motivated, can be loyal and successful long-term employees. They just need someone at times to give them an opportunity and a chance to be successful. However, knowing that and some of the eligibility barriers that are required to be enrolled in WIOA Title I, it could be that they are going to show up with some past trauma or lived experience that does require additional support and to be successful. That's why is the importance of the case management that will come along with that with the WIOA Title I Career Planner. They will be there to help them. They've hopefully already worked with them to the point where they're prepared for work-based learning and internship. But if interruptions come up along the way, they can be an advocate to your business to help remedy those situations for the success of not just the individual, but the business. And let's see what else. But overall, depending on your local workforce area, there's going to be a little bit of difference between, I would say, maybe a supply and demand issue. I can tell you for Central Iowa, we already have 120 some youth that are enrolled in our WIOA Title I youth program, and we need placement for those. We need businesses that will provide opportunities so that we can place them in your business. And across Iowa, I'm going to roughly guess there's probably 400 to 500 WIOA Title I youth that are looking for placement. However, in Central Iowa, I can tell you there's currently a waiting list for services. Not a long one, but there is one. Now, other parts of Iowa, they may have a little bit of the opposite need. They may be that they are trying to identify and form relationships with youth to be enrolled in WIOA Title I. So whether it's the business referring to someone to be enrolled in Title I, or whether it's the Title I program looking to find business partners is something will vary a little bit depending on the capacity and the area that you work with. But I would just say in Central Iowa, what we are looking for is we are looking for businesses to host some of our candidates and bring support to that, as opposed to we don't necessarily need an influx of referrals that aren't strategic just to satisfy maybe the preference for this grant. That makes sense. Other parts of Iowa may have a different story, but we are really looking forward to working with you. I see some of the people on the call that have already worked with us, and would just highly welcome engagement with your local workforce area, board, and Iowa Works for this summer and beyond.
Thanks, Eric. Thanks, Lisa, for that recap. That's a lot of good information to have. The IWD does encourage everyone to co-enroll your participants with the Title I youth program. So if you have any questions with Title I, you can reach out to Lisa or your contact at the local office there. Those local office contacts are listed on again, in the notice of funding opportunity and on the website as well. So just kind of moving forward here, going to keep plugging through the presentation here. So we have a couple of important dates here. So we have a project period and award period. The project period is basically the length of your program here, and that needs to be a minimum of 6 weeks within the time frame of starting May 1 to August 31st. So your program can definitely run longer than the 6 weeks, but to be eligible for any type of reimbursement for your expenses, the program does need to be a minimum of that 6 weeks. So keep that in mind. The award period is also the period of performance runs from April 1 to August 31st. So both the project period and the award period have an August 31st end date. So these dates are come into play when incurring costs for your program. So typically, the project period relates to when participant wages could be reimbursed. So starting that May 1 to August 31st would be the period where you could seek reimbursement for participant wages. And that May 1 deadline is usually not a problem, since sometimes youth are still in school during that time. The award period being April 1, that is the date where you can start incurring costs for your program. If you need to buy any kind of training materials or program supplies to get your program up and running, you can start incurring those costs April 1. We will, again, talk more specifically about these details in future awardee webinars, but I did want to make mention of that to you now. Excuse me. So Lisa kind of talked about what Title I funds could help with your program. So I'm going to touch base on what the Summer Youth Internship Program funds can be used for. So the first one here is usually the biggest one is participant wages, and we're talking about gross wages for those that complete, again, a minimum of the 6 weeks of your program and then working at least 10 hours per week. This 10 hours is fairly new, but I do want to highlight that. So over the 6-week period, we want to see a participant putting in at least 60 hours over that to be eligible for reimbursement. Participants do need to be paid a minimum of $13 an hour. Again, to highlight that, that's a change from last year, just by an additional dollar, but the minimum required payment is $13 an hour. You are able to pay them more than that. You want to pay your participants $15 an hour. That's perfectly fine to do that. And you can seek reimbursement for $15 an hour. Some other things that the grant fund can pay for is compensation to a participant as a result of completing the program. If you want to make that kind of an incentive for somebody completing the 6 weeks, you can incorporate that into your budget and your program. The grant can pay for training resources, which may be any software or curriculum you may need to buy, any program supplies and materials, for instance, uniforms, t-shirts, as part of that uniform, or any computers, tools, and consumable items. We just ask that for each of those categories, they be less than $5,000. And then you can also request program coordination as use of funds, and that is defined as a staff or overseeing the day-to-day administration of the project who has direct involvement with participant and contact hours. So that's kind of the stipulation for that. But if you do have program coordinator, then you want to seek reimbursement for their wages, that is an eligible use of these funds. And then lastly, administrative costs. And we do cap that to 10% of the total award. So for example, if you wanted to submit and propose a budget of $25,000 in participant wages and let's say $5,000 in training resources, your total budget would be $30,000 for those two items. So then you could request up to $3,000 in admin costs, making a total overall budget $33,000. So just kind of wanted to highlight that information there. So then on the other end of the spectrum, there's some things that the award funds may not be used for. Any stipends or bonuses, food or drink, any employer payroll taxes, and fringe benefits, award or graduation ceremony materials, any marketing or promotional items. Program transportation is not an eligible use for these funds. But if you remember back to Lisa's slides, if you're co-enrolling your participants, you may be able to utilize some of those Title I funds for that. Any reimbursement of workers' compensation insurance is not an eligible item. And then capital expenditures as building rental or utilities or any equipment over $5,000 is not eligible. And then any gift certificates, cards, or vouchers are ineligible uses for the grant funds. Again, all this information is listed in the notice of funding opportunity, but I just wanted to recap that as well. So successful applicants may need to have a procurement policy that will need to be on file. If your entity does not currently have a procurement policy, you may want to either Google what that is and maybe consult with legal counsel to determine if any specific rules or requirements that may apply to your individual circumstances to create a procurement policy. So a procurement policy will be required if you have cumulative purchases over $10,000 to one vendor. We would ask for your procurement policy at that point. We do have a template that we can provide if you don't have a procurement policy, but just want to make sure that you're aware that you should consult legal counsel to gear it towards your specific organization. So this program does have reporting requirements, and so I wanted to touch on these to make you aware of what data we will be requiring you to capture of your program. If awarded, you will be required to submit the reports that I'm going to list down the next couple slides. And again, these details are specified in the notice of funding opportunity. So I just gave a quick synopsis of what these might entail. So your participant report is just a cover sheet report detailing data on your program participants. With that, you're going to submit a participant list that would include, your participant's name, date of birth, the hourly rate they're going to be paid, and some other items on there too. If they're enrolled with the Title I Youth Program as well. And this will be a list that we can provide to you for you to complete. And then also a signed participant agreement is going to be required. That participant agreement is between the participant and the employer, and that needs to be signed by both of those entities. And it should detail the rate of hourly pay, the hours they're going to be expected to work, the length of time, maybe that they're going to be with that employer. And if the participant is a minor, just be sure to remember that you will need to get a signature from the parent or legal guardian along with that. So along with that participant report, there's also going to be monthly project reports, and that is just participant data that's submitted from the prior month's activities. Along with that, you can submit for your reimbursement for any eligible expenses from the prior month's activities. And then the last report I'm going to talk about is the final project report. This is a report that's due at the completion of your program. It's just cumulative program and participant data. This is a fairly long list, so I just kind of cut out some of those that were listed in there. And again, the full list is detailed in the notice of funding opportunity. It's just we're gonna recapture or capture what state funds we received, the number of employers separated by if it's an employer partner, educational institute partner, or any nonprofit partners you had, and then the youth completing the program and their attendance rate. And then also you could request reimbursement for your last month there, or recapture any expenditures you had during your program that you might have missed. Again, IWD will provide all these report templates, so these are not something you need to create, and we will talk in more detail in the awardee webinars. So now that you have the program information, yes.
Melanie, before we go on to the Iowa grants section, yes. I just want to highlight a couple of the questions that were in the chat.
Okay, perfect.
First of all, we had a question from, I believe it was Kylie, and about how do we enroll participants into the WIOWA Title I program. Kylie, I'm assuming that was answered with Lisa and Eric, but if you still have questions, please make sure that you reach out. Daryl had a question of, is there a list of Title I groups that an employer can work with? Again, I would encourage you to maybe reach out to your local area work partner list that was on that list previously on a slide. It's also a part of the notice of funding opportunity. All those contacts are listed out as well, and hopefully you can get that get a response specific to your area and regarding that question. There was another one from Kylie saying, can this program be set up as a partnership with multiple business partners? Melanie?
Yeah, absolutely. if you have, depending on what their occupations are for your participants, yeah, absolutely. You can have more than one employer partner. You could have some be doing, healthcare, some be doing carpentry experience with an employer. So yes, multiple employers is perfectly fine and acceptable. So yeah, that's a good question.
And
Is there any
we
other
had
ones I
another.
missed?
Yeah, we had another one of what is some examples of proof that might be needed for admin costs?
So for admin costs, let's say if you had an actual like administrative assistant helping with you on your program, we would need to see proof of payment of wages and timesheets for those hours you're requesting. If it's actual items that you need to run your program, we would need again proof of purchase, so that which would be an invoice. Or a receipt, and then also proof of payment of those items. And then again, we would talk more in detail about that in an awardee email, and then when we meet with you one-on-one. So there is some documentation that goes into play with any reimbursement request. So yeah, just be aware of that there will be documentation required, and it's for regardless of anything, it's proof of purchase and proof of payment for any eligible expenses. And if it's wages that you want to be reimbursed for, it's going to be timesheets and pay stubs or a pay register. So
And then one last question. Would this affect other grants such as 84E or other state awards? And the question for that is the 84E grant is specifically for apprenticeships. And this is not an apprenticeship sponsor or specific grant. So we would be looking more for a traditional internship program rather than an apprenticeship. So it likely would not affect that. However, you cannot claim if there's an individual that you're claiming on for Summer Youth Internship, you would not be eligible to claim them for 84E or any equipment that you might have purchased under 84E. You would not be able to also request reimbursement for that equipment or those supply purchases under this award as well. So it doesn't necessarily affect it. It just means that you do have to keep items separate. All right.
okay, thanks, Patrick. So now that we've covered all that information, kind of just going to dive into how do you actually apply for the grant. So all of our applications are done through IowaGrants.gov. So if you don't already have an account for that, I encourage you to get on and get that started, get an account. So you can register and complete all of this at IowaGrants.gov. So here I just have the landing page for that. So to get started, you would just click that top left single sign-on tool button, and that will take you to either the login screen or if you have to set up a new account. So the first box here on the left is just the typical sign-in email address and password that would step you through there. I've kind of just set up the screen here to show what steps you might have to take to set up a new account. So down underneath on that first box, there's a black circle around there. You would click sign up if you need to set up a new account. And then it's basically like any other registration. You enter, some of your personal information, your email address. It goes through security, and then you set up a password. I would encourage you to get on and do this as soon as possible if you're thinking about applying for the grant. To get an account approved, it does take a day or two. It has to be manually approved, so there's a type of approval process in there. So it's not an instant kind of thing. So just want to make you aware of that. So once you do get an account and get logged in, this is the screen you're going to see in Iowa Grants. So kind of on the left-hand side here, you can see there's kind of a ribbon going down the side here. So you want to navigate to funding opportunities that I have circled in red here. And then once you do that, it's going to list every funding opportunity that's available in the state right now with a green posted a link to it. So the easiest way I have found is to dial down that list is to search just the word summer. So you can see here on the right hand side of the screen, I've searched summer, and it brought back the the result of the 2026 Summer Youth Internship Program. So it just returned that one line. So that's the one we want. So you would go ahead and click on that line to get you started in the application. So the top box here is what you would see once you get started and get in there. And there is a full page of information on that. It just doesn't cut off there. It's some of the same information that's listed in the Notice of Funding Opportunity. We kind of recap and give you that information again. But if you scroll all the way down to the bottom of that page, I want to bring your attention to the attachments. We have posted here a couple attachments you will need to download and save on your computer to be filled in and uploaded later in the application. So that one is the budget. That's a budget template. So that one you would download and complete on your computer and then upload later. We've also here attached the Notice of Funding Opportunity that we've been referencing. So you could download that and have that available here. So you can also get it on our website. So there's multiple places you can access this. And then we've also given you a copy of the high demand occupations list to have ready as you're completing your application. And then the last one would be just a W-9, and that's just standard for any applicant that we have. We have that. It's a form accounting needs to get you set up. So just want to touch base on those those attachments that we have. So here on this screen, you can see the different components down below here that the sections of the application that will need to be completed before you can submit your application. So each one of those, you can click on those and navigate to that screen to complete. You can also click the blue preview application button, and that will kind of give you a scrolling page of the whole application. So I'm just going to highlight the budget narrative. So for this purposes, I'm pretending we clicked on budget narrative, and it's taken me to this tab. You can see at the top of ribbon, there's all the different components that were listed on the previous page that you can also access from the screen as well. So right now you're not able to edit anything until you actually click that green action button of edit form that's circled, and then you would complete it would open up a text box, and I believe it has like a 50,000 character limit for you to complete that information there. And as you work through the application, I would encourage you to hit save. You can always hit save and get out of the application. You can come back and start back up where you left off too. So then for this example at the top box, I went ahead and completed the budget narrative. Just put something in that reflected what my budget Excel sheet that I uploaded that kind of breaks down the information on there a little bit more. So here again, once you've hit saved, and you can also go back and edit again if you want to make any changes. But if you're done with that section, you can click the orange box that says mark as complete. So once you've done that, it will put down below here. Now there is a checkbox on the budget narrative that is showing as complete. So once you have gotten check marks on all these components and you've reviewed your application, you would be ready to submit your application. And at that time, there would be an orange action button or a green action button, I believe, to submit your application. And then there'll be another pop-up that says, are you sure you really want to submit your application? And then you would click yes. So I just want to reiterate that you want to be as specific as possible in your budget narrative. The more detailed information you provide, the easier the reviewers will have in determining your project meets the intent of this opportunity. And then, just once all components are complete, you'd be able to submit your application. So that's kind of a high level overview of the application process in Iowa Grants. So if you have questions, if you're navigating through there, feel free to reach out. We're here to help. This last slide, I just wanted to kind of bring to attention again that to review Appendix A of the Notice of Funding Opportunity, it's the application guidance, which gives you examples of the specific information your application should contain. Areas covered are, design narrative, the performance measures, and the requirements for your budget summary and narrative. Appendix A also includes the scoring rubric, and this is the rubric that the reviewers will be using and details exactly what information they will be looking at when they review your application. And then I've just popped up here on the screen just that, you can see the point values connected with each component of that. So you're eligible for a total of 100 points. Project design narrative, you can see, is weighted pretty heavily at 25 points. And then performance measures is another one that's weighted pretty heavily. So just wanted to bring your attention to those information. So again, a lot of the information is found in that notice of funding opportunity. It's a great document to have up available as you're completing your application. And yeah, if we have any questions, that's all I have. I want to thank everybody.
We
got questions?
Yeah, we have a few questions. First of all, we have one question about that they didn't currently see those on Iowa grants. I'm assuming, Kylie, when you're saying I don't see those on Iowa grants, does that mean that you weren't seeing the attachments? If that's the attachment section, okay, perfect. So if you go into if you are in Iowa grants and you select funding opportunities, which is on the left-hand side of the screen in the gray ribbon, and then you select the funding opportunity of Future Ready Iowa Summer Youth Internship Program, it'll take you to the main page of that you should see something that says 649688 FY26 Future Ready Iowa Summer Youth Internship Program as a title, and then you should see like the application deadline, funding opportunity, notice of funding opportunity details. If you scroll all the way down on that page, you'll see 4 attachments: the budget spreadsheet, the Summer Youth Internship funding, a notice of funding opportunity, the high demand occupation list, and a blank W-9. So those 4 attachments are on the main page of the actual award notice. So if you are still struggling with that, let us know and we can guide you on that. There was also a question of how do you verify if a student is low income or falls into a priority area. Lisa has dropped a few links into the chat to hopefully address some of those questions. Okay, perfect. Thanks, Kylie, for letting us know that. But those 2 links that Lisa has dropped into the chat, be sure to check those out. You can also contact your local area advisor or in the partner area, and so such as Eric if you're in central Iowa, and they could help guide you to make sure that you're that you are able to verify that the student's from a low income family or low income household. And then there was another question from a different Kylie about if a CNA would classify as a health technician or a health tech. I want to do a little bit before we answer that one. I want to reach out to actually have a conversation with Melanie, but also reach out to our LMI team. The reason why is because I believe that CNAs have dropped off the list for summer of 2026 for this award, because I do know that they were on the list previously, and so I want to make sure from our LMI team that they are separate from a health technician before we answer that. So that'll come out in an FAQ document, and we'll make sure that we get that information out to everybody. And then let's see if there were any other questions that have come through. Lisa's dropped a few more links into the chat. Lisa, do you want to talk about those? Oh, Lisa, you're sending them to hosts and panelists, not everyone.
Oh my
That's
gosh,
why.
is that what I'm doing? Okay, we'll get
Thank
them
you,
back
Lynn,
on.
for letting us know that.
We'll get those resent out. Really for low income, how Title I defines that to determine if they're eligible for the Title I program is mostly like within the last 6 months of us determining eligibility, Are they in a family who have received public assistance, whether that's TANF, temporary assistance for needy families, or if they've received SNAP, any other form of general assistance, and or if they are at 70% of the lower level standard income level. So if they're meet those poverty levels. So I need to resend those to everyone. Third time is a charm, huh?
And then Eddie has a question. Can you share any strategies that non-employer applicants can use to pay participant wages? For an example, how would a nonprofit handle compensation of interns placed in an internship with a partner?
Well, so someone's probably paying their wages. So, if it's an employer partner, um, correct me if I'm wrong, Patrick, they would have to pay the employer, or the employer would have to request repayment from the awardee. Is that how we of those wages, and we reimburse the awardee?
It- Correct. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah.
The IWD would only send a reimbursement to the entity awarded with the contract, and so those
Right.
payments would then have to be filtered down. So
Yep.
yeah.
Was that the question?
Mhm.
Okay.
I believe so. Yep.
Okay.
Okay, and then we had a couple others come through. Daryl asked if when we send out the recording, if we'll, in the slide deck, if we'll have these links in the attachment as well.
Yep. Yep. We'll have a recording and the slide deck. Yep.
Right.
Probably be a day or two before we get that, but yes.
Then Eddie gave us the thumbs up saying, yes, we did answer that question. So that's
Okay, great. Thanks. Absolutely, Kyle.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. If you do have any specific questions, be sure to reach out to Melanie, and she'll be able to get those responded.